witchy friends, and welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Ella and I make videos on witchcraft, Wicca and paganism. So for today's video we have a highly requested one, city witchcraft. So you guys voted for this one on the poll that I had a couple of, weeks ago at this point, I believe. And yeah, let's get right into it. So let's talk about witchcraft when living in a city. Can it be done? Absolutely, of course. But it will be different than your witchcraft practice if you were living in the countryside, for example. That's just the reality of it. However, that does not mean that it takes away from your practice or that your practice living in a city is any less beautiful or meaningful. So I actually live in a city. I live in Riga, Latvia, and so here are my tips for living in a city and practicing witchcraft. So tip number one is to make friends with your home. So a lot of people actually overlook this, but your home spirit can be such an amazing energy to work with in your practice. Honestly, even if you live in the countryside or no matter where you live, this is a great technique or a great way to connect. A lot of older practices or cultures to this day have some sort of house spirit. So in Germany, for example, we have the kobold. In Slavic mythology, it's the domovoi. And usually it's seen as a spirit that resides in your home and is kind of a little bit of a little caretaker. Though it could also literally be your house that is the spirit, so it's not necessarily removed. So I was actually reading A Court of Silver Flames, which is a bit of an adult romance novel, and not to spoil anything or anything like that, but the main character starts really building a connection with the house that she lives in and starts talking to the house, and the house almost has its own consciousness almost. And I know for some of you this might sound a little bit silly, but a lot of people actually to this day do this, especially in witchcraft. Now the thing is, I don't really see it talked about a lot online, on social media, or even in books. I rarely see this be discussed. So I think we need to open up that conversation a lot more. So I suggest you to try this for 1 month and see how you feel at the end of it. Every morning as well as evening before going to sleep, greet your house, as well as when you come back home from, wherever you've been all day long. Just greet your house and give thanks for the protection that it offers you, the feeling of safety that it may offer you. This can be applied to a house, an apartment, like how we live, a room even, like a bedroom, or if you live in a dorm room, for example. Just start taking care of your home as if it does have that consciousness, and just see how you feel. You might sense a shift in energy after some time. It's like you're breathing life into your home in a completely new way. And with time as well as commitment, the goal really is to kind of work with your home spirit as you would with any other spirit. For example, a plant ally, so that your home spirit may assist you in your practice. For example, for prosperity spells to bring in prosperity into your home, or for protection spells and warding and things like that. Now the next tip, and stay here with me for a while, is meditation. Now you will see and read and hear about meditation from basically everyone. And I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I don't meditate. I just can't. I have ADHD. I can't meditate. I've tried. Now if you do want to try meditation, definitely do. There's guided meditations on YouTube, or there's apps for that as well. But in my opinion, I feel like when it comes down to meditation, the idea behind it is to really connect to your own spirit and to your own consciousness and energies. So I feel like that can be done in different ways that are more suitable for example, my personal needs, or how I work. It's really about sensing, or being able to sense, when your body needs to be recharged, or when there's any kind of energy within your space, to be able to sense that and pick that up. And meditation or forms of meditations can really help you achieve that. Now, if you, like me, fall asleep during every single meditation that you try, I want you to actually rethink meditation a little bit and instead focus maybe more on the relaxing aspect of meditation or the calming aspect of meditation. So I, for example, like to paint. I like to read. I even like to play Animal Crossing. Cooking, baking, just listening to music can really be meditative. Just finding something that relaxes you and eases your aching body and lets you reconnect to your body in a more calming type of way. This includes social media breaks. I feel like everyone's just so stuck on their phone. I at least am. My screen time is quite embarrassing. And just being on social media, consuming, you need a break. Your spirit needs a break, your body needs a break from that. A lot of times you don't realize how tense you are just being on your phone, especially with current events, for example. And I feel like a lot of times, whilst we spend time in witchcraft spaces online, we actually don't spend a lot of time in physical reality about, you know, spending time physically with our witchcraft, with our practice, and it kind of takes a little bit away from your practice, I feel. So use you time to connect to yourself again. And again, try this for a month and see how you feel. You might find that there is an untapped pool of magic and energy within you that you can utilize in your practice. We are nature as well, so when we think city witchcraft, we oftentimes think of no nature being available to us, but we forget that our body is part of nature. We think of nature as something outside of us, when that type of thinking is what causes us to be removed from nature. So reconnect to nature by connecting to your own body. And yes, that can include exploring your body. So this leads me to the next point of nourishing your body and just really getting in touch with your body and just connecting to nature through your body. Now you can do that by nourishing your body, taking good care of it, exercising your body, relaxing your body, for example in a bath, or if you don't have a bathtub, a shower with, you know, like a pouch that has very aromatic sort of smells in it that you can hang into your shower, just really to get that sort of relaxation and to ease out any sort of tensions in your body. Rest your body when you feel drained. Just start listening to what your body needs, and it's going to be different for everyone. City life especially can be so hectic. People are just like running around and having a busy life, and a lot of us actually feel guilty for resting, and that should definitely not be the case, which is actually a great journaling prompt. Why do you feel guilty when you are resting your body? Is that something that comes from you, or is that something that has been instilled into you, and why has that been instilled? How can you overcome that? And as I mentioned previously, I just sometimes love to take a day or half a day or even just a couple of hours off and just, you know, and play Animal Crossing, for example. I love Animal Crossing. Or any other game. Sims, for example, is a great option too, just to de-stress and decompress and just like let it all go. There's multiple different ways that you can do this, of course. Just a couple of ideas depending on your physical abilities, for example. Some ideas are, you know, just sitting and relaxing, taking a bath, as I said, reading, painting, baking, a lot of different options out there that you can try. Now, depending on your city, a really great way, and this one is quite obvious, is to go for a walk in a park, or, you know, just enjoy a park or nature area within your city in general. I try to get out of the city or to a park at least every week, every weekend. I really try to make time for this, and I always feel so much better afterwards. Besides the obvious aspect of connecting to nature in a more spiritual way, it's also just healthy for you to breathe in some fresh air every once in a while. The air in cities can oftentimes be very polluted, and so a park kind of relieves that a little bit. Again, you can just sit on a park bench, read a book, or also, for example, feed the local birds, jot down what type of birds live in your area, or for example, identify the plants in your area and see if you can use any of the plants in the area that you live in for your spell working. So these were more general tips for working magic in a city environment. Now here are some more specific witchcraft and ritual tips that I have for you. Tip number 1 is sigils. Sigils everywhere. Plaster them everywhere. Honestly, sigils are amazing. They're so versatile and just easy to do. You can create sigils yourself, or you can use some that you find like online, for example. I prefer sigils that I create myself. I feel like they carry my own personal energy. You can use sigils by sewing them into your clothing. That's a very traditional way of using sigils, and you'll see a lot of folk dresses actually utilize this. You can also draw them onto the little tag inside clothing if you don't want to sew anything in. Or if you don't want to do anything permanent like that, you could try drawing sigils onto your body with lotion, for example, or with body wash. Even with makeup, before you blend your foundation, for example, you can try drawing a couple of sigils for the day. That's a little bit of glamour magic for you. I like the idea of writing them onto leaves and then sprinkling them around in the city, for example, for peace, for unity, for prosperity, for example, if you want to do a little bit more of a community type of working. Now, I specifically say leaves instead of like paper, because it's not in the interest of a witch to be littering in your own city, or regardless where really. You can carry a sigil in the back of your phone case. I love that technique, especially for protection. In your pencil case, for example, underneath your water bottle you could draw one, or even on the soles of your shoes. So sigils are just super versatile and they can really easily be hidden. Chat rooms and online spaces and online connections are kind of our modern day covens, if you will. I do have an exclusive Discord server for Patreons if you want to check that out. But there are public Discord servers as well. I know Amino, I think it's Amino Witches and Pagans, is one that I have seen people suggest, though I don't have personal experience, so I'm not sure. And in general, just chatting online and connecting with other witches can be a really, really nice way to inspire you to connect with other witches and just like, you know, feel that sort of like connection that a lot of us in the city sometimes are missing. Like a lot of times, you know, people always say there's so many people in the city, yet you always feel kind of alone in the city or like lonely. So making online connections, especially if you don't find, you know, anyone in your area that is interested in the same thing, is a great way to kind of work around that. Now my next tip is for actually getting your hands on tools. So specifically herbs, or herbs, I suppose. I, in my 13 years of experience of practicing witchcraft, have only once bought herbs from a witchcraft store. Everything else I buy in a grocery store. That one time was for mugwort because I couldn't find it in a grocery store. But quite honestly, I get all of my herbs from grocery stores. I don't see the reason for outside. You know, like a grocery store has everything I need. A grocery store is affordable, it's accessible, and quite frankly, my spells that I write myself, I only use herbs from the grocery store. And if I do ever find myself being interested in a spell that I've read in a book or even online, and I see an herb that I just cannot get my hands on, I will look at the symbolism of that herb and then find a substitute that I can find in a grocery store. I don't see the point of doing fancy herbs, guys. I'm sorry, I don't. Now, if you're lucky, you might be able to grow your own herbs, for example, you know, in a balcony if you have one, but like, you know, for winter time or for easy access, just the grocery store is amazing. And honestly, you can get candles in grocery stores. Thrift shops obviously are a great one too, and you'll find a lot of really cool kind of things that if you just open your eyes and like look a little bit beyond, you might find that your local shops actually carry a really great selection for your practice. Now, I just mentioned herbs, but in general, indoor plants are a great way to bring a little bit of greenery to your home. If you are able to have a plant where you live, that's just definitely something that I can suggest. Plants can not only just be aesthetically pleasing, but they can also be a spirit ally, for example. So I suggest you to actually research the plant that you have at home and really kind of see what the plant was perhaps used for in the past, what the properties are of the plant, and if you can use it in your practice at all. If you can't find anything online or in a book, then I suggest you to kind of see what you experience with that plant. So for example, if the plant is very sturdy, could it be used for something in your practice? Versus, you know, if the plant is very seasonal, could that be somehow incorporated in your practice? Does the plant have flowers or anything that are color corresponding, for example? So a lot of plants at home can be used and can be incorporated into your practice. And any plant parent will tell you that with time you definitely create a connection, an emotional connection with your plants. And once again, very witchy, great way to incorporate witchcraft into your practice. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Altar spaces. Do you need an altar? I feel like the question here is wrong. Do you want an altar? How would an altar benefit you in your practice? How would you use the altar? If you feel like you need an altar and you don't have the means for a big vast one, then I suggest you to kind of look once again at the symbolism of the altar. What does it stand for? And can you somehow take those symbolisms and kind of shift them around to fit you and your situation? For example, I like to have the 5 elements represented on my altar: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. And you can do that on, for example, a windowsill without it being obvious, especially if you live with family, if you're still in a broom closet, or you live in a dorm where you can't really have like a full-on altar on display. A quick way that you can just have that altar feeling anyway is, as I said, on a windowsill. You could also have a portable altar in a box, for example, that you can just store away if need be. Or something that I think is really, really cool is to actually draw an altar in your journal. That also means it's portable, so you can just take it wherever you need and just carry it with you. But I feel like that's such a neat creative idea, just to draw your altar. I'll show a little picture of what I mean here on the screen, but it's just a really, really handy way for you to kind of do that. I will link below a downloadable version if you don't find yourself being the best artist. You can download this, print it, or trace it, whatever you want, just as inspiration for your own. Now, another thing that I want to quickly discuss is witchy phone apps. They can be a portable grimoire, for example, so you can have your book of spells, book of shadows, whatever you want to call it, on your notes app, or just like on an online, such as Drive, for example, you know, Google Drive or whatever. There's a lot of different apps out there that you can use for your practice. I just filmed a video, so I will link that, I suppose, here. Might be here, I don't know. So you can go check that out. You can test out drawing sigils. You can, you know, take pictures and keep a picture photo album on your phone of all of the magical things that you see in the city and want to reconnect with or connect with, such as the birds and the plants and all that sort of stuff. So using your phone for magical purposes is definitely a great way to incorporate witchcraft. If you are, for example, more in the broom closet and you have a phone available to you. Now, this one again seems obvious, but I feel like a lot of people say it but never do it, is getting a library card. Now, to my knowledge, most libraries offer free memberships, but a library is a great place for you to both do research or just, once again, spend time in to decompress and relax. And even if your library doesn't have any books on witchcraft specifically, you might find books on herbs, minerals and gems. You might find books on sociology, psychology, anthropology, things that can really add to your practice that aren't like specific witchcraft books. And maybe you do get lucky and find a couple of witchcraft books in your library. I do suggest you to just quickly Google these books to make sure they're not like outdated or that the author is completely problematic, because a lot of library books are not necessarily always up to date depending on where you live. But libraries are just awesome. I think the vibe is just really nice too. Like, even if you're not looking for a book, just heading to a library and with music, for example, just kind of like relaxing a little bit and once again decompressing, meditating. I think that's a really nice sort of way to also be in a space where, you know, you've got all these old books. It smells amazing usually, and it's a very, very nice way to kind of get away from the stress of city life. Now, in that same way or line of thinking, let's talk about coffee and tea shops. Now, I love them. Again, it's just nice to sit in a coffee shop and, like, you know, have your own music with you, or, you know, just listen to what's going on in the coffee shop, have a journal with you if you want, plan out some spells, but also utilizing the magic of coffee or tea, correspondences specifically. So a lot of times, for example, regular tea or coffee will have correspondences. So for example, think caramel syrup might be for prosperity, or, you know, happiness and things like that, or mint might be again for prosperity. Lavender is to relax your mind and to bring some tranquility into your life. So there's a couple of different herb and flavor profiles that can really add some magic to your daily life, that are incredibly inconspicuous and easy for you to add to your practice. It's a really easy way to incorporate magic. You can of course just do this at home as well. You don't have to go to a coffee shop, but if you are on the go, for example, set an intention with your coffee and make the correspondence of its flavor be the intention of your day. And my last tip is simmer pots. Now, I did not know about simmer pots until maybe a year ago, thanks to one of my besties, Hannah, who introduced me to simmer pots. So what is a simmer pot, you might ask? Imagine a big pot of hot water with a bunch of herbs, spices, fruit, and other ingredients, just steaming and creating the most amazing smell in your home. It can be cleansing, it can be protective, it can bring in a new kind of manifestation, it can bring prosperity to you, it can be anything you want it to be. You may have noticed when you bake cookies that the entire house just smells amazing and your mood just shifts. And smell is, among the other senses, an amazing tool that you can actually use in your practice, in your witchcraft. Think aromatherapy, for example, right? So utilizing smell as well as the symbolism and significance of different herbs, spices, fruit, and so on, you can really make a lot out of these simmer pots. You can either make simmer pots that are like a big pot of tea, essentially, or my German mind immediately thinks of Glühwein, which is mulled wine, or very similar to mulled wine. Or you could also make it a non-ingestible one where you might be adding certain leaves and things like that, like pine leaves, or pine branches, I suppose, and just other things that you may have foraged that have a really beautiful smell, that are non-toxic, and that would not necessarily be for drinking, but just for the intention of the ingredient. So those are my tips for city witchcraft. If you have any more, or if you have any general comments or questions, the comment section is of course always open for you. Now, if you did like this video, please consider giving it a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It helps me out a lot. As mentioned, I do have a Patreon, which if you would like to support me, that's a really, really great way to support me and fund my channel, essentially, so that I can continue making videos. And of course, as usual, all of my socials, my Instagram, my TikTok is all linked in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and blessed be. Bye!